I don't know about this whole live stream thing. This browser seems to be showing me a copy of my live stream as it's actually streaming, but at the same time, the live stream status page on YouTube is telling me that I'm not sending it any data. Well, that shouldn't be. I suppose we just have to assume the best for something like this. Hello, everybody. OdatNurd here, and welcome to tonight's live stream recording of some live package development. Just getting a couple things out of the way here. Did you know that if you have really big files and you run a command that does operations on them and also accidentally crosses file system boundaries onto file shares, you could spend like a really long time waiting for those jobs to be done? That was perhaps not the cleverest thing I could have done there. It took me a while to realize what exactly I had done there, which is ironic because last week after the stream I archived the recording file as I generally do, and it turned out it happened so quickly, even though it was a multi-gigabyte file. I thought that I had actually broken something or that it didn't work, and I realized that what happened was I had actually backed it up to my own local machine instead of across the network onto the NAS. So I managed to do the exact same thing wrong in two different directions, so that's pretty impressive. In any case, hello, fellow Sublime Text Fanatics. I think we might as well get things actually rolling here. Now, I have to admit, I'm not entirely sure how tonight will go because I have been busy with doing some other video editing related and planning and writing type things. Uh, so we'll see what happens. Now, the uh, code we were writing last week for creating overrides, I have officially rolled into override audit as it's a potential new item. There's still one more command that we'd like to do there. And then as the name of the stream portends, we might also like to do some, oh my goodness. We might also like to do some work with partial overrides, if you will. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and press the magic button that does this and get things rolling. That is some fine button pressing on my part. So, hello, fellow Sublime Text Fanatics. OdatNurd here. Welcome to the live stream for whatever day it is. 0708, July 8th. Not good with dates, not good with the passage of time. Hello, everybody. I hope you have been enjoying the live streams that we've been doing every Monday. And on my alternate channel, I'm releasing Sublime Text videos every Monday. So you might want to hop on over there. It should possibly be linked in the description of this video. I always say that, but I did not. Ah, yes, indeed. Subscribe for Sublime videos. There's totally a link to my channel, other channel, I should say, down in the description of this particular video. And if you have any items that you would like me to create a video on, you can drop me a message in the comment section of any of my videos on either of my two channels, that channel or this channel, or send me a tweet at OdatNurd on Twitter for the same purpose. And If you are watching the live stream as it unspools live, hello to you, my friends. If you have any questions, drop those in the chat for the video. I do have that chat window open on one of my other monitors. Hopefully, I won't get so engrossed in doing something horribly wrong that I don't notice that there's chat happening in the box. So, in the last video, the last live stream, I should say, what we were doing was working on the code for the new create override command, which, as you can see, I have brought into override audit. It used to be a command, a plugin command that was implemented in my user package while I was working on it, and that's just for speed of development because, as you'll know, saving plugin files, should probably do that, saving plugin files that saving Python files that aren't in the root level of a package are not considered plugins. It's a hard time getting those words out. So Sublime doesn't automatically reload them. It'll only automatically reload Python files that are in the base of a package. But as we can see from the sidebar over here, the only Python file that's in the top level is the override audit.py here. So one thing we can do is that to make it reload the entire package. And also you can use that command, which isn't working for me right now. Pardon me while I swap to the override audit that is in the packages directory, which is the exact same file. It's symlinked. It's actually stored in my local source directory and symlinked into the package directory specifically so that doing that will work. But as we just saw when I saved the plugin, Sublime still saw it. It's just package, automatic package reloader. The package I'm using here requires file names to start with the packages folder, or it can't figure out what package it's trying to reload. So when I'm developing new commands for packages, particularly ones like override audit that have actually been fully automatic or already released, just for the speed of development, I like to do that just in plugin files in my home directory, in my user package, I should say, and doing things like this, doing full package or file and method imports from the actual package to pull in any base code that I might need so that I can do my code. And this is an example of that here, the partial override diff command from must be about over a year ago now. And that is how we created this override audit command. And I have moved that into the commands folder. I believe I can do a little reveal in sidebar to see it right there. And something I also brought in was this, which I would have to do that for us to be able to see. That's the browse code. And I originally intended to put that in the lib folder along with all of these other things because this is sort of like a library of items. But in order for this to work, it needs to import stuff from the core, and the core imports things from lib. And there was one of those wacko circular dependency jobbies where the code wouldn't work because one tries to import the other and it does that before it's finished loading, so the symbols aren't visible and they end up being none, and you have to play weird games. And it seemed to me for the time being the easiest thing to do was to move that out of the lib and into the source. uh, and there's maybe some more work we might want to do there. I'm going to bring this temporarily over into this pane so that we can zoom it in. And we'll see that I actually made a couple of minor changes. I remember the last live stream, we had a good 45 minutes of just going over all of the code in this package or in this thing here for the package browser, allowing you to find packages and uh, choose one from the command or the a quick panel, and a resource browser that does the same thing but for resources in a package, and then finally the package resource browser, which embeds a package browser and a resource browser and allows you to choose one and then the other. And that gives us functionality like this where we can choose a package and then choose a resource in a package, and it opens up for us like so. Um, Now there was some stuff, yeah, that we did in here as we went through the uh, the code here. One was, if you recall, if you watch that. If not, you can. There's a playlist on the channel. You can go back and view if you want to know how all of this code works. You can look there, and you can also, of course, pull it the actual code on GitHub for the package. You can find a link to that on its pack on the override audit package control uh, page on the packagecontrol.io website. But it grabs a list of all of the resource files and then explodes them out to have the folders and files in any particular directory so that it can do that hierarchical search as we see here, because I can choose a package and go back to package. I can go into folders in a package and out and make choices that way. That's how all of this works, by storing the list of files and the list of folders. And of course, the main bit of code that we did last week was every time you browse one level deeper into the code, you store what the name of the currently selected item is into that entry in the little stack that it uses to perform the hierarchical up-down tree browse type operation. And then at the end, it can pull all of the items out. And I did it this way. I add the item here while it's working on the stack, particularly because it was just the most expedient. But I did have a thought that perhaps that could be done up here, handle file as it's adding a new item. When this is the part where it's finding a subdirectory that it doesn't already know about, it's adding a new folder for that subdirectory and then setting it up to have no files and no folders before it recursively calls itself to go inside. So one would think, in theory, this could also say branch self.current equals subdir, and then all of the tree of that is created, every branch in the tree would not only know the contents of this branch for files and folders, but also the name of this item itself. And since we have that stack, maybe that would do what we want. But it turns out, and I never actually implemented it. I was thinking, that seemed like it would be a cleaner way to do it than this sort of hacky cramming it in here. And then I realized logically that won't work, just because when we do something like this and say we're in a package and we choose one, right now the current item is nothing, so the stack is empty. When I go in here, I'm currently in the subdir for send to trash, but as far as the stack is concerned, I'm not. I'm actually one level deep. I'm still, remember, the stack keeps track of what files you were looking at prior to arriving at the point you're currently at. So the stack right now is empty because I haven't done any browsing yet. Now the stack says that there's the top level items. So the current, the file dot or the current item at that particular level, sorry, the self.current at that level in the tree is the empty string because it's at the top, which means that if we were to just store that there and not insert it here, we would actually always be missing the last path component on everything. So, I mean, I decided not to bother with that, but I did make some changes to the code in general. Now, one of the things I noticed, I added this new concept of a package filter in package browser. It can be none or it can be a function. And as we can see here, if you provide a function, then instead of using the file type to figure out if you want just packages that contain overrides or all packages, it will instead invoke your filter with the data for every package and allows you to determine, do we want this package to be browsed or not? And there's a very specific reason for that, and that reason is over here in override audit create override command. What we want to be doing here, if no package is provided and no file is provided, is we want to prompt the user to select, remember, pick a package that you want to create an override in, and then pick the resource that you want to override. And then that file is opened up, such as this one here. And this is a transient view. You don't actually create an override unless you save the file. And we'll see that what we're actually searching for here is resource type dot non override, which is telling the package resource browser we want to show not every file and not only overrides. We want the inverse of overrides. We want you to show us every resource file that is not already an override. And if I was to create an override report, which is over in this tab here, I guess I'll bring that up here. Whoops, that's the package report. That one, that looks like the one. Here we can see in default, I have, of course, an override on paste from history. So if I was to say create override and go into default, we'll see there's no paste from history in here. And that's because the code in create override is specifically saying, I only want you to display non-override files. If you're trying to create an override, you don't want to pick a resource that's already been overwritten. That doesn't make any sense, right? And that is 100% the case. But we'll note that, whoops, if I was to actually create that package report that I reclosed, the way that this is the way that this was implemented originally is if the resource type is override, then you want just packages that contain overrides. Otherwise, you get a list of every package, which is what you would get if you said resource type dot all or resource type dot non overrides. But it turns out that that's not what we want, because the idea here is we're supposed to be choosing a resource to create an override for, right? And in order for there to be an override, two things have to happen. One, the package needs to be either shipped or installed, or both. That is, there has to be a Sublime package file present for this package. And you also want there to be, at some level, unpacked packages. Or more specifically, something like this link pad package is completely unpacked. There's not a Sublime package file for it. And that means you can't create an override for this package because you're editing it directly. It's only considered an override if there's a shipped or installed Sublime package file and then unpacked folders exist, and any resources in the unpacked folder mirror the names of one from the Sublime package file. That's what creates an override. So we don't want link pad to be offered here, and we don't want, in this case, override audit to be listed here, or the quick panel package, or the SFTP package, or any of these dependencies down here, but they would have shown up in the create override command because it was passing non-override there. And when it's not non-override, you just got everything. So there was a specific need to be able to do something there. So what we did was we implemented this P filter so that we can say if there's a package filter, use that filter to determine what the list of packages to browse is. And we can see here that the package filter is determining whether or not any particular package should exist in the browse by checking to see if it has a package file. And that's a method in the package info class up here in the packages.py, which is in this pane over here, so we're not going to see it right now, that returns the name of the package file that's shipped or installed, and it returns none if there isn't a package file. So that's just making sure that it automatically picks only, it filters away any packages that can't possibly contain overrides. And now you'll see even the user package, which is always unpacked, also doesn't appear in here. Now, I did toy with the idea of maybe for non-overrides, it could do this automatically, but that didn't really sit right with me because for non-overrides, you might still want to be able to pick unpacked files. So this seemed like the more expedient way to do that. Now, what I didn't do in the browse code was make the resource browser do the same thing, having a like R filter for filtering resource files. And that's mostly because the logic in here uses this get package contents to figure so a lot of stuff out here. This one seems more, if you will, if we wanted a resource filter, it would be very simple, I think, to be able to do the same thing up here and say if the package info.name isn't in the cache, then we want to calculate it and we want to say if there's a p filter, then just use that on all of the resources and all of the contents of the package and the unpacked contents as well to get all of the resources, and then it could go ahead and filter those and call explode files on the version that falls out of the bottom, including injecting unknown items into the list. It seems kind of it would be easy to do, but it also sort of seems like overkill. So for the purposes of until I have the actual need to do that, I'm not going to bother fiddling with that sort of action. And then of course a couple of other things I did was I tweaked up this code a little bit to be a little bit nicer. If you remember previously, this we wanted to be able to verify that there's an actually not an unpacked file and that sorry, if the file is there's a unpacked copy, just open it. That has always been there because we do need the full normal path of the file. And this actually shouldn't actually happen because if you were calling this command like this, then you're browsing for the package and you're browsing for the file. And in that case, it's going to automatically only show you things that definitely don't already have unpacked files due to that change we just talked about right here on line 28. But you can call this with a package and a file if you wanted to create an override for it directly. So this is just sort of an end run on that. And what we were doing before was we were using /.join packages slash package and file to come up with the resource name for a package item, which looks something like this, so that it has the name of the package and then the actual resource. And then we would check to see if that is in the list of resources. And remember, when you call find resources, you can only pass the file name, like console input widget.sublime settings. You can't pass the default slash or it won't find it because it's finding resources by name, but it's not finding resources by location. It's giving you the location of the resources. So we have to take the last item off. They split it by the path separators here, the forward path separators, which is not platform specific. Sublime always references resource files using the / thing. Use the last one to find the resource and then see if the package is there. And if it was not there, we would return, but otherwise we would have another /.join for $packages and then package and file. And that's because for the purposes of using find resources and finding a match, for find resources, you pass something like colors.py and it gives you back a list of full package things like default /colors.py or not, depending if it found the resource. But when you want to call run command with the open file command, it has to be formatted as this. This has to be there. The open file command knows to expand this packages item here to the actual package folder for you. And it seemed weird to me to create the two resources that were almost but not quite exactly identical. It was only whether the first item was packages slash or $packages, just to be able to have these two items. And it also seemed wrong to do it this way with packages slash and then try to make a slice that removes the packages that we just finished appending or to concatenating with the rest of the path and then adding the new one in. So what I did was I joined the package in the file to end up with just this, which is what we need for here, and then we have to add that packages on there. Oh, I guess I explained that wrong. The packages slash whatever is what the find resources returns, but the resource as we would get it is looks more like this because it mimics how view package file works. Sorry, I explained that not particularly good, but when it comes time to actually opening the file, so what we do instead is join that and then just use the simple concatenation here for the set test here to see if the resource is found, and then we can automatically prepend packages slash on the front, which tightens that code up just a little bit. Now, there was also a problem in our other implementation. Um, this was just named create override because that's what the command was named in our testbed code. And when I brought it in here, I didn't change that, and everything continued to still work until I deleted my testbed code, and then I realized I didn't rename the command here. But otherwise, this is all nice. And you might also remember that there was an event listener for that, which is now out here in this events.py because only the commands go in that part there. So that's the changes since the last week, and I probably tightened up a little bit of other stuff. Like you might notice the comments here are slightly different as well. I'll go ahead and close that and that. We can create those fairly simplistically. But the other code that and this is a feature that I was thinking about a ways back. And I guess a nice way to do something like this would be to, whoops, not that one, display an override report, which of course, if you're not familiar with override audit, this is telling you every package that has overrides and what those overrides are. And here I have an override on the paste from history. And if I was actually to bulk diff this package, I could get a report that shows me in the package default the sample.txt file doesn't exist in the underlying package file. That's what the question mark there means. This is something that exists in the unpacked folder, but not in the default.sublime package. So it's still considered to be part of the package, but it's not an override. All the other resources in default, except for paste from history.py, are only in the Sublime package file, so they're just being used as is, but the paste from history.py file appears in the package file and in the unpacked folder, and the difference is these lines right here. We are basically can do things like show the output, as we can see here, in a quick panel instead of in a pop-up menu, which I find nicer, and we have more lines of context, 3 lines of context for the whole item instead of just the first one, which was always, if I'm copying and pasting a bunch of code, I want a little bit more context for what it is I'm doing there. So this is an example of one report. Now, this only shows you when you have an actual override on a resource file like this. But there's another kind of way to augment. Now, we're thinking here of the idea that you yourself, when you're working on Sublime, something is not quite working the way you thought it should work. Excuse me. Or if you're having some other sort of problem, or you're asking a problem on the forum and someone is helping you, and there are ways to augment Sublime by modifying package files in a way that's not directly an override like this. And it's something that I'm calling in the vernacular of override audit a quote unquote partial override. And to demonstrate that, we could say that if I looked at default.sublime commands like this, you can see there are a lot of these. This is a file that is used to add commands to the command palette. And the one in default, the package default, is what the default for the command palette is. But any package can add such a file themselves if they want, and that is augmenting that resource. Now, this doesn't just apply for command files. It also applies for some other files. Sublime settings files also work this way. Sublime menu files work this way. You can see there's a couple of different context menus. There's one here and there's one in default. Gee, what have I already said? Anyway, there's quite a few. Sublime color scheme files also work this way, and so do Sublime theme files. The idea is when it comes time to load the resource, say default linux.sublime mouse map here, which is also another example of this, what Sublime does is it actually finds and loads all of the resources by the same name. And we could actually, I think, here go find resources and say we said default linux.sublime key map like this. Oh, and actually I think we might want to say import JSON and print JSON.dumps. That. Is that going to work? No. One more. There we go. Oh, and I guess we probably need to actually also throw in a indent equals 2. There we go. That's just to make this a little nicer. So what Sublime is actually doing internally when it wants to load the default linux.sublime key map is it's finding all of the resources with that exact name across all packages, which is why you have to not provide any path information here. And regardless of where inside the package the resource is, it finds all of them and then it orders them very specifically. It always orders them so that the default package is the very first item, the user package, if any, is the very last one, and all of the other items in the list are sorted lexically according to the name of the package. And then what it does is it takes the content of this file, adds the content of this, then the content of this, then the content of this, and so on until the user file and the resulting conglomeration of all of those resources becomes the final resource that it uses. And there's merging and blending that happens here, and we see that sort of thing all the time in our settings. This is the default settings on the left. Here's my user preferences on the right. So what Sublime is doing in this case is taking this settings file, all of these settings just automatically apply, and then these ones are applied on top. And so I have the color scheme Monakai here, so it's overriding this one even though it's the same value. And I have a font face of Vivala code, which overrides this one, and so on and so forth. And what we end up with is one settings file. The same thing also happens for key map files, but in that case, since that's a list of items, instead of here, this is just a JSON object. When you see something like key bindings, where it's a list of objects, then the object lists of items are just concatenated together in the order that they are loaded. And when Sublime looks for key bindings, it starts at the bottom of the file and goes upward. That's what you might notice, for example, if you have multiple bindings for the same key in a file like so, and this command was echo like this, I can open Terminus. Well, actually, I suppose I need to do that in a tab, don't I? I need to Terminus tab or Terminus view like so. Now I want the Control W key to close Terminus the way it would normally close any other tab, but in Terminus, every key you type automatically goes to the terminal. So that's why I have this here. But this item is on the bottom, and now that I've saved that key binding, I can't close Terminus anymore, but every time I push it, you can see that happening. Which is a big drag. Well, delete the right one, I should say. Otherwise, bad things will happen. And now I can go ahead and say Yeah, close that, and that'll all work. So that's how all that works. So it is possible for you to have key bindings in your user binding that override these ones, and those are the sorts of changes that aren't going to show up in in an override report because you're not overriding the file, you're augmenting the file. So what I actually had an idea was for something similar to an override report that shows you what is being added from partial files. And I think we need, this isn't bound anywhere. That is the code in this OA partial diff item here. And the command was audit partial overrides. So I might even still have this because I think I ran it earlier. Yeah, so we'll close this down. We'll see what happens here because this has gone wrong for me in the past. So here we're saying we want to audit partial overrides. And what do we want to audit? Do we want to audit settings, menu files, key bindings, or commands? This isn't an exhaustive list. This is very much a proof of concept, even more so than the stuff we've been working on. So say we chose menu, for example. Now, here are all of the unique menu files that exist. Context menu is this one. Encoding is this one, this menu that you see if you click on this thing. Find in files .sublime menu. That's going to be this thing here. You got the line endings menu, which is, of course, that one. The main menu was the main menu. That makes sense. Sidebar mount point is anywhere, I think, like so. And perhaps even folders as well. I can't remember. Sidebar is just sidebar items in general. Syntax, that's the menu that you see under here, as I recall. And then there's also the tab context menu, which is the context menu you get if you right click on a tab and not in a file. And the widget context menu is this one here. That's how I added word wrap and clear console to that menu there, if you were curious. I'm going to go ahead and actually pop that. And here, this one is less interesting. This is the syntax.sublime menu, and the only item it has is syntax with a magic command that expands to all of the syntaxes, which is why when you click on this, you just see all of the syntaxes. The same menu also, that same command, I should say, is also up here under View Syntax. That if you look at the main menu, that's how that works as well. And similarly for all of these other items. But if we wanted to see actual more interesting stuff, maybe we might want to pick settings. And then this is a list of every settings file that exists. And maybe we want the preferences.sublime settings. And now what we're getting is this partial override report here, which is showing all of the places where this resource exists. Now, this is not particularly nicely syntax highlighted. A lot of work needs to go into that potentially. And also, I think this should automatically start like this. But this is saying these are the default preferences. Those preferences there exist. Then the package Bob adds the setting Bob is true. And then the user preferences are that. So if you wanted to know where a setting is coming from, this is a way to do that very thing. You can start here and work from the bottom up, or find, if you want to know where's the Bob setting come from, it's definitely coming from this package. It's the only place it exists. But where's the font face coming from? It's coming from two places. It's coming from there and here. This one's farther to the bottom. It'd probably be handy to have the mini map on so you could actually see that happening. That one's at the top. That one is at the bottom. This is where the font face is coming from. So that's the idea of this functionality here. I'm not entirely sure how I want this to actually display though, is the thing, because this was a proof of concept. It was sort of laid out this way, just because the override report is laid out this way, so it was easy code to steal. Actually, I think this is diff report, because you see the override report has those extra items there to show you how the files associate, but the diff report doesn't, and the partial diff, or the partial, actually I called it a partial diff up there for partial override report. Doesn't, for the same reason, because there's really only ever going to be one item here. Now I did toy with potential other things to do here. Like maybe we want to display this just as a standard settings file, but with some sort of git blame view, annotating the lines so that you know what package each line comes from. So you might see this preferences, and most of the lines have um, default in the left, but all the user settings have user in the left, and all the Bob setting has Bob in the left. Basically, the code would coalesce together all of these items into one dictionary. But that seem perhaps fraught with a lot of weird edge cases. It's hard to get it to display nicely that way, I think, um, which is sort of an issue there. Um, Possibly something could be done with hover pop-ups on regions, all of these settings. Now, this all requires having enough savvy to be able to display arbitrary items and find the appropriate setting to be able to know, which is clearly possible, because if you use the package dev package, and if you're not, I highly recommend you use the package dev package. I don't think that's actually doing the thing that it's supposed to do. That particular key binding never seems to work the way that it's supposed to. But it has this functionality where you can do this and it automatically finds the appropriate setting. And if it's a setting you don't already have, it adds it to the file for you to fiddle with, like so. Um, so that sort of functionality clearly possible. Also, you get all this sort of cool action like this. So this isn't something that's insurmountable by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just not sure how helpful it might be in this particular case. Um, that's something else that um, is for working on, if you will. Which is why I named this stream the way I did, working with partials. Um, but I'm not I'm not entirely sure what the nice way to do that is. And I gave it a fair amount of thought while I was on my walk this morning, but I couldn't really come up with a concrete decision. So maybe this is a good thing to open up to people out there. Are you watching this? Are you watching the archive of this? Leave your comments down in the comment section below. How do you think this might best work out? Because what I see is maybe doing something similar to the diff report for the partial diff. You'll notice this is using the diff syntax in here so we can see that stuff nicely. I think it should be possible to use the partial diff. Oh, I might even have. Yeah, use the actual syntax for Sublime menu files, which is JSON for this code here, which might make that look a little bit nicer. And it could also start folded. I'm just really not entirely sure what the best way to go with that is. So I think that needs to sort of ruminate and meld a little bit more. I'm kind of also surprised at the way this works, because this is just using internal. I created the package override report thread, which, as we can see, does all of the nice work. Now, I think there's actually a little bit more work that needs to go into this, but one of the things that it should do is reuse the same buffer, and it doesn't. I can't remember if I did that on purpose or or not. So there's that as well. I've been talking for quite a bit here. Let me get me some water here. Um, Failing that, there was some other things that I'd like to do. I'd like to have a hover pop up when you hover the mouse over a package in one of these things that gives you more information. And that would apply here in the override report, also in the diff report, and also in a package report. I'm going to move all of these reports back down here like so. Um, well, yeah, we'll do it over here. Package report. I think those are all the sorts of reports. Override reports can come in two flavors. Diff reports can come in two flavors, and there's the package report. But the code is the same. It just changes what it displays. There's a expired only override report, and then this one, and then there's a bulk diff for multiple packages or just for one. And package report is package report. But it'd be nice if when hovering the mouse, I'm going to turn the mini map off again for now because I don't like to have it on when I'm streaming because I have constrained visibility in the window such as it is. Um, I think it would be nice if you could hover over one of these packages and get some item, that just says this is the default package ships with Sublime, contains unpacked files, so that you understand what those things mean a little bit better. And the same thing could also happen up here as well. And uh, the deal, though, is determining how that information could be conveyed. Um, Makes that perhaps slightly tricky to pull off. Um, because here, if we got that, we could try to parse that text, and the same could be said for this, but this one is a little more complicated. It would have to scooch it out to there. Whoops, excuse me. So this is something to ponder what the nice way to pull something like this off is. Um, and there was another thing I had in mind. Um, they're all the commands that generate reports are commands that contain their own report item here. I had this notion of swapping, making a reports item under source and putting the thread, the main handling for that in there, just cause. But I don't know if that actually has any nice effect on the code in a way that makes it easier to see. It just always catches me by surprise. I think because I haven't worked on the code in a little while for this particular stuff to remind me that that's how those reports work. The diff report and the override report and such. Now they all have the same sort of item. You call this, and when the thread starts, you get the underscore process method called, an underscore process. Its job is to actually process the report. However, it should do stuff, and you add results, and then you call set content to give the title of the report, the actual result content to display the type, the syntax, and any settings that should be applied, as we can see there. The thought occurs to me that much in the same way for this report, we're storing a list of this sort of information to associate packages with things. I think we can see that here in the diff report. The list of expired packages and the unknown overrides are special items that are, or settings that are added to the view while it's doing this stuff so that later on code knows that it should handle these as appropriate. We can edit that and we can delete it, but we can't diff it because it's not actually an override. Another thought occurs. Do you see this is edit, diff, revert? I think we probably covered this in a previous video. I'm not entirely liking the idea of that saying edit override if it's not actually an override, but I don't know that it's worth complicating the code to make it say edit file, delete file, because it is displaying in the override report. But perhaps, and this is, let's say, diff report. That would be, let's do this in override report first because I think that might be a little nicer to view. We'll turn the sidebar off for the time being. We create a package list because override reports are always for every package, I believe. I don't think you can create an override report for just a single package because that doesn't make as much sense. This is for the overviewy type action. You can, of course, fold these things. So we get a list of all packages, and then we maybe ignore some. We determine if we should display only expired or not. And that's the generation time after resulting that. That's how this item gets appended here. And then if we output a package, we say that we displayed one, and then we can either say there's no overrides or there is. If we were to, as part of output package, along with this unknown files thing that we use for that, if we stored a list of packages that have been added to the report and their status, whether they are shipped, installed, or unpacked, then I think we could grab that sort of information in a hover pop-up, or we could get a hover pop-up and then grab that information, I should say. So we keep a list of expired packages. We keep a list of unknown things. I'll say, just for our own edification here, if we wanted a list of packages that exist in the report, I think we'd want it to be a dictionary because we want to be able to hover over the name default because we can, as you can see, we can pull that, and we want to then be able to know that key and look it up in the dictionary in the settings. So I think that's how we'd want that to work. And for package name, package info, and package list, we could here say if I think output package returns, it returns false if it didn't add anything and true if it did. So if it did output the package, then here is where we could say packages and the value in the key is package name is equal to a new dictionary, which we could throw some data in. And down here, we might say override audit report packages, and that is packages like so. Now, if I reload this, the plugin has reloaded. So I think that means, now if I'm going to go ahead and do, that was this one here. If I said view settings.get that, oops, that setting doesn't exist. If I refresh the report, there's diff C++. Okay, so that part is working exactly the way we want. And we also want this. Is disabled, is dependency, name only. Da, da, da. I think we want, well, let's throw all of this stuff in here. We can always redact some out later, right? What, what was I actually looking at there? Override report. Right. So here, we'll just throw that up there to refer to for the time being. So what are the keys? Disabled would be package info.is disabled, and dependency would be package info.is dependency, and if we've already called this once, the package info is already cached the data required to figure out. So let's say complete override is package info dot has possible overrides simple equals false. And now well, we'll see how we want to do this later. Expired override files. What is that? Simple equals false. Oh, complete override expired would be package info. Oops, don't do that. Dot expired override files simple equals false. We want that to be a bool because we don't care what the list is. We just want to know if it's true or not. And then we can say shipped is, we'll go ahead and this. Oh, maybe we can actually just bool that one up. Package info dot shipped path. Because I think none would be any, whoops, save that, and shipped installed unpacked. Whoa. This is the shipped path. This is the installed path. This is the unpacked path. Reload the plugin. Reload the report. Now we're getting all kinds of action here. So I think we might want to say JSON.dumps this and indent equals 2. Does that not do what I think it does? Oh. I think I need to print it. Otherwise, it just returns a string. So let's see what kind of information we got here. The diff package isn't installed, but it is shipped. It's not a complete override. It hasn't been expired, but it does have unpacked files. Well, that would be true for everything in here, wouldn't it? It's not a dependency and it's not disabled. Now, that dependency one isn't never going to appear in an override report, obviously, because dependencies can't be overridden. And also a package can't be disabled and still have overrides, I don't think. Can't remember if I allow for that or not. I don't have any examples of complete overrides here, do I? No, I don't. We can fix that though. CD local Sublime Text 3 packages. Copy default to home/.config Sublime Text 3 installed packages. Now, when I reload this, Now there's an installed one and it's a complete override. And now that I redid that, I think I should be able to. Let's go ahead and clear that all out. And default installed true ship to complete override to complete override expired false. Oh, I guess I should probably have done that. Touch home slash dot config Sublime Text 3 installed packages default 5 years ago. Does that not do what I think it does? Oh, I think I just created a file called 5 years ago, didn't I? Yeah. Sorry. Minus D. There we go. That's better. Now that we did that, we can do this again. And now the complete override is true. Complete override expired is true. So that's totally working. Now that's an example of pulling this from this thing here. Might be nice if there's not a thing called. No, there's not. Okay. Where might we throw this action here? Oh, well, not there, I suppose. That is the override diff. Let's do it here, let's say. That is in line with everything else, right? Let's copy that to here. We're going to need to fix this somewhat. And everywhere that there's a package info should be a self, like this. And this could be equal to package info dot status instead of all of this business. Everything still loads. Oh, what did I do? Reload that. Okay. Well, that's kind of proof that that's doing what one thought, huh? There we go. We call this returns a dictionary that provides the complete status of this package all in one rolled up value. All in one say for code that wants to display information on the package in more detail without having to make multiple method calls on its own. I'll think of a nicer way to say that. So let's order these in the way we might care about them. We might say installation status, extended status, is this a complete override? Overrides might be whoosh. Because there's a couple of ways for us to do this. Let's do this for now. Expired override files, get a list of all overridden files which are older than the source. Okay, this currently compares timestamps. Oh, that's for that one. Sorry. Yeah. This information is cached in the package. So we might say, okay, we have override files returns a list, and unknown override files returns a list, and expired override files. Might we say that we want to know if this is a shipped package, an installed package, or an unpacked package? We want to know if it's disabled or not, and if it's a dependency or not. We might want to know if this is a complete override, and if so, if it has expired. Here, we might actually say, here's where, well, let's do it, and then we'll determine what the best way to do this is. Override files, unknown override files, this one. And these all want to, we don't have to pass, we can say simple equals true for those ones if we care. So let's come down here and do a little bit of that. And those will be self dot, like so. And we might even say for that one and that one, which will, oops, sorry, there we go. For that one and that one, we'll say simple equals true, just for clarity, since we're saying simple equals false there. That's overrides. This one is expired overrides, like so. And this one is being a butt. Unknown overrides. And for each of these things, what if, now, I don't know if this is Pythonic or not, but I kind of like this sort of action. If that's going to be a long line anyway, I like them to look like that. And I think for all of these, we want something like that, say. Because we don't actually want to store the list of all of the override files. We just want to know how many there are, and how many expired overrides there are, and how many unknown overrides there are. Now the thing there is, we could do this one of two ways. We could take an argument here that allows you to say, do you care about the detail on the information? And then overrides expired and unknown could just have, is it possible that this has? And it would be possible for it to have overrides if there's an unpacked folder. And it would also be possible for there to be expired overrides and unknown overrides in that case as well. Maybe that's a nice thing to do. One how much detail the resulting dictionary should have. More detail means more information needs to be gathered on the package. I think that's a little nicer. We'll say detailed equals false, let's say. So here we might say oh, actually, let's do it the nice way. Dang, dang, dang. Let's go to that, come up here. Let's do that, and whoops. Oh, come on. I can never remember how to do that. Overrides. Whoops. Equals. I don't like that. I guess I'll have to cheat that out a little bit. Maybe this isn't a nice way to do this. Yeah, well, let's do it this way. Overrides is equal to there's an item up here. Has possible overrides. It may return false positives since it does not actually check if overrides exist or not. Okay, so yeah, overrides equals 0 if self 0 equals this. Self dot has possible overrides. Looks like that. And I'd do all of those in one shot. I probably could, huh? I could do a little of this. Is Python one of those languages that lets you do this sort of thing? Overrides equals expired overrides equals unknown overrides equals one if has possible overrides else 0. I mean, this is something we're going to have to clean up later anyway. So by default, we just say the value of all of these is 1 if it's possible for this package to have overrides and 0 if not. So if it's not possible for a package to have overrides, we don't need to worry about that at all. And if it is possible for it to have overrides, then we know that let's say there's at least one, and we need to know when we call this if we call detailed false or true to know if the number is valid or not. Because if it's possible for it to have overrides, then it's possible for there to be expired overrides and it's possible to be unknown overrides. But you can't tell unless you detail things. But you could then say if detailed, then this. I guess it could go like this and then cut these out just so that looks a little nicer. Expired overrides equals unknown overrides equals overrides. I imagine that's probably okay, huh? Oh, wow, that's bad. Oh, that's down here on line 705. That's because one of these things is not like the other. Oops. Like so, but that doesn't really matter because we want those items to be these items here. And yeah, let's add a comma so that it actually works. Whoops. Still no, huh? What did I do? Oh, that's right, yeah. Once you try to reload a package and it fails, automatic package reloader refuses to ever load it again. So you have to take dire actions on your own. That looks like it probably worked. So if you can call status with detailed is false or true. If you want it to be detailed, it gets the full list of overrides, expired overrides, and unknown overrides and stores the number of them. It doesn't store the names, but if you cared and you still had the package info, you could find that information if you wanted it. And if you say detailed is false, then the number of overrides is 1 if it's possible to have overrides, otherwise 0, and then expired and unknown overrides match, so you either have some or not. And Override information may contain false positives if detailed is false. Like so. That looks like it's probably nice. And then we come over to here again. We already added that, right? So if we reload everything, we reload that, and then we do this. Now we know, because we didn't call anything, Python is not disabled. Unknown overrides, there's 111, okay, which is not what we want here. In the actual override report, we want detailed equals true. Because it has all of that information. It doesn't have to do any extra work to gather it because it needed to gather that information to generate the report in the first place. So now we can see there is, for the Python package, there's one override and none of them are expired. So let's take a look. One override and none are expired. That's nice. What about test package? Test package. These are not ordered nicely or anything. It's not disabled. It has 23 unknown overrides. I buy that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and some more. And that's all it has, plus 2 regular overrides and no expired overrides. It's not a complete override. It's not shipped. It is installed. And I suppose for our purposes, we probably need to have an expired thing in here. So package cd test package and touch readme minus d 10 years ago. So if I reload this, that's expired, and the readme in test package is expired. And then when I do this here, and look up at test package, we should be able to see that there's one expired override. So that's all nicely working for override reports. So that's nice. Now, if we did a bulk diff report, and it's going to do bulk diff all packages like so. This knows for on our behalf that complete override is this a complete override and expired. That sample is unknown. And we come down to test package. I'll probably just use this. We can see that the README is expired even though there's no differences, and those are unknown. So what we might want is the diff report args package list packet. Now I think how this one works is package can be none, in which case it's all packages. It can be a list of packages or a single package. So we're gonna have to do that 2 ways. So let's also say bulk diff single package for, let's say, default, just so we have another report to go on here. And much like we used here, we're gathering the, oh, you can see it right here. If packages is not none, then packages with overrides. If package is none, then it just finds packages with overrides and does them all, but otherwise it's a single package, which could also, I guess, be, yeah. It gets a list. Oh, I see. Yeah, this wants a list of packages, so it could be a single package or one. It can't be multiple packages. And here we can say this is getting the list of all of the packages. We know whether it's a single package or not, which basically just changes the text at the top. Overrides in default versus overrides in 8 packages, like so. So what we would want to do here is the same stuff we did here, which is Under expired packages and unknown files, we just want a list of packages. And we want to store that in the settings when we apply them, like so. And we also want to add this line in its loop while it is diffing the package, which is this one. For name in names, decorate the package name, perform the diff. So package info is this one. So here we might go ahead and say, we'll do it down here, shall we? Packages, package name. Oh. Yeah, that'll be slightly different, won't it? Let's move it up and put it here. Package info is equal to the name of the package, looking up the package by name. So here, this can just be name, I would imagine, just as well. Save that, and I think that'll do what we want. Everything seems to reload. So I'm going to bulk diff report in just this, and we hit the key, and we only see disabled false, dependency false, unpacked true, complete override true, one unknown override yes, expired overrides none, but it is a complete override that has expired and it's shipped and installed and unpacked. Okay, so that's good. And then in this one, when we hit that and do the thing to look at the settings, we get the nice stuff here. Again, if we look at the Python package, which again, I should do it that way because it's easier. We can see there's one override in the Python package. It's not disabled. Unpacked true. Looks nice. And let's pick another one here. Makefile has one. HTML. Just to see. There's that one that has an expired item, test package. Let's look at test package. And here, it's right here. It's not disabled. It's not a dependency. It is unpacked. It has 23 unknowns, 2 overrides, one of which is expired. That is looking real good. So the last thing then is the package report, which is this one. And of course that information's not in there right now. So if I did this, it's zippity doodah. So we'd again go to package report. Now here's one where we would actually say, oh, and we're not even doing that whole settings thing in this one. So we're going to have to add that. This one is only getting the most basic of information. So in this one, we don't want to call it with detailed false or detailed true. We want to call it with detailed false. So let's say again for package report, we say packages is that. When we set the content after the syntax, we want this. So after the syntax, we want, is that how I was doing it in the other file? I really hit the wrong thing there. Yeah. We'll do a little bit of that. That looks not too shabby. I mean, that could line up nicer. And inside the loop, well, I guess we probably want the one from here because it has the appropriate names, but not the appropriate indent. Packages, package name equals package info detailed equals false. Like so. Reload that. That's looking good. Reload this package. And now we have this sort of information. Now here we say there are either no overrides, say, oh, check it out. We can actually see all of the stuff in here now. That's nice. So package setting context is actually a dependency. So it says dependency, yes. If we looked for vintage in this thing, um, bulk diff package TypeScript, bulk diff package vintage. You can't diff vintage because it can't have overrides. I wonder why you can bulk diff TypeScript. That doesn't seem right somehow. I'll have to investigate that, I suppose. Perl, TCL, color scheme, Rust. Vintage, disabled, true. Dependency, false. Not unpacked, not expired, no overrides. That seems about right. And it can't possibly have overrides because it doesn't have an unpacked folder. TypeScript. We have to look at TypeScript. It's got to be in here somewhere, right? I thought that this thing totally. Oh, maybe I should be using the one from Sublime instead of this one. One of them orders the keys in a nice order, and then there's this one apparently. Boy, I spend a lot of time just looking. I got a lot of packages here, and a lot of them are shipped, yo. Sublime, forgot which one I'm looking for here. TypeScript, disabled, true. It's not a dependency. It is unpacked, but it has no overrides. Now, I think what we need to find in here is, say, default or Python or something where we know. Can I, where's Terminus in this list? I think there's a problem with that. I think that it is incorrectly displaying some action here. We can fix that though. It is in our power, probably, unless there was a reason why it works that way. There we go. Default, disabled, false, dependency, false. It is unpacked. It is an expired overrides. Oh, it is a complete override. It is an expired complete override. And there's at least one thing, maybe. We don't actually know that that's the case. We only know that it could be the case. Now, that is setting us up. Let's go ahead and do that. So that all of the reports, the override report, the diff report, whether it has one package or two, the package report and the diff report, all, whoops, I did not mean to do that. All have this information in them. There it is for just one. This is a diff of all packages, so there's more than one. Here's the override report. As we can see, it's gotten, well, let's go and clear that. Let's say the override report has more than one, and actually just for, testing purposes, only expired. There's only one in this one. Well, two, I guess. Test package and default. So that's all working, and the package list as well. The package report also has one for all packages. So that's all the reports that could be displaying package information have that information available. Now, it's allowing me to bulk diff dependencies, and that one I can't, but I think it's because it's yeah. From the looks of this, I think the bulk diff, the context bulk diff command is doing something stupid. So let's see that, but well, I guess that would be diff report, technically speaking. I can't remember. Is there a contextual one of those? I suppose the easiest way to find that out is to look at context.sublime menu and see that override audit diff package. It's that one. Override audit diff package. Where's this command implemented? No, that's this one. Okay. Is enabled. Report type is not equal to bulk diff, either a single package or all packages. This can be invoked by a context menu to set a package, invoked with a package argument or with no arguments to diff all packages. So the description is bulk diff package. That's what we're seeing here, right? Yes. Always visible, true, false. Yeah. Is enabled. The context is that the report type is self.report type. Return report type is not. Oh, right. I know what that's doing. If I did this, bulk diff this, it's disabled here because the context of this is package and the if I view the report type setting for this, which I can't remember how that works. We'd have to look at the bulk diff report. That's this one, where it calls the report type. Good gravy. Oh, it's that down here? Yeah. I thought, oh, good. This starts the thread. Thread calls process. Package this. Report type is underscore bulk all. But if you gave it a certain name, then the report type would be the name of the package. That's a setting type. Where's report type get set? Of course. When it actually applies the stupid thing. Override audit report type. Okay, so I already forgot what I was doing. We want view dot settings dot get override audit report type. That is the report for a text package because it's a single package, and this one is default because it's a single package, so I can close that one. And if we look for all packages, we see bulk all like so. So looking at, let's close that because we don't care. Override report, no. Diff report, no. Context, we don't care. That was the thing we're doing. Override audit, diff package, which is this one. It's visible when the report type is not the context of the package that it's in and package exists. I don't think that part is right. Specifically, that means that here in the report for multiple items, I can right-click on Make File and bulk diff just that package. But in the one for the single package, I can't. It's disabled there, and that's because of the context. But self.package exists. What's that doing? That's in the core. Let's bring that over here. If context, not package only. Yeah, I think it's doing it. it's automatically saying that, oh, if it's a package only context, then package exists if that folder appears in the packages path. Where all is this being used? Because that is, whoops, that is not at all the correct. It's defined in the core. It's used in diff package, and it's used in freshen package. Okay, in freshen package, it makes sense. That one, you can't freshen one of those. The only freshen that you can do is on an override that's expired. So there's no freshen option on this one, but there is a freshen option on this one. That's how that one works. And that one does require the package to exist. So, that makes perfect sense. I guess we want to double check what this means. Package is not none and override is none. Okay. It has a target if there's a package and an override. It's complete if it has a package and override and an isDiff. It's a package only if the package isn't none and there isn't an override. Basically, I guess I never explained, this command context class is used to provide the contextual menus for items in reports and in actual overrides. So when you open a file that is actually an override, for example, like so, there's a setting in here that allows it to know that this is an override and that what package it's in. That's what makes both of these appear. It knows it's an override because it has the setting for override, and it has a setting for package. In order for it to be complete, it has to have a setting for diff, which is what allows it to swap between views like this, the diff and the not diff. Each of these views have the same settings, but in one isDiff is true and in the other isDiff is false. Package only applies when the package setting is set, but the override setting isn't set, which only happens in reports. And here, override exists isn't a thing, but maybe overrides possible is what we want. If context package only. It doesn't even necessarily need to know if it's a package only, does it? It just needs to know if that's def overrides possible. Oh, I think I know why it doesn't do that. It would need to know if there's a package somewhere. Crap. I'm gonna skip that, fixing that for now. I'm gonna guess that the reason why it does that, and maybe now we can actually fix it with the stuff we were actually just doing. It can tell if the package exists by very easily checking to see the existence of a package directory in a directory that it knows exists. But in order for it to know that an override is possible, it has to do that. And it has to know that there's a Sublime package. And for a Sublime package file, it would need to look in the installed packages folder that you can get to by saying browse packages and going up a folder. There's installed packages. These are the packages that I've installed. And if we look in where I have my the local Sublime Text 3, in the installation directory, there's a directory called packages. This is where the shipped packages exist. In order to determine that overrides are possible, it would have to look in here to see if there's a Sublime package with the package name, or if there's a package file in here, which technically you might think is not that big of a deal, except I don't know how many people know this, but the installed packages folder is an anything goes folder structure wise thing. Any Sublime package file anywhere underneath installed packages is considered an installed package, which includes if you create a directory in here and put packages inside that directory, that still counts as an installed package. So in order to test this, it would have to recursively spin through the installed packages folder, which is something that is kind of resource intensive and is something that the packages class does in order to figure out the information that it gets, which is why it does it in a thread. So for our purposes, we're going to forget that for the time being. But what we will do is we could perhaps make that smarter. Um, Context menu wise in the diff package. Context is that. Oh, actually, I suppose I could have put that in. Oh, shoot. Let's excuse me. Let's give something a little try here. This is the thing we wanted to know where it was, which is in the core. So here we could say def overrides possible. Say return false just for that. Now, this gets self.viewTarget. We need the target, and then we get the setting. So in that case, oh, we already have this. Package contains expired. It's kind of doing what we want. We want the view target. We want to say packages equals target.settings.get, and we will jump over to this to say this, and it would be a dictionary like so. So if it doesn't exist, it pops like so. We don't care about that. Where are we getting package name? Where did I just copy that from? If it has a, oh. We think we need, if this context has a target, then get the target. I think that was part of this. Package contains expired. It's referenced from elsewhere that already knows that this is happening. Okay. So that was probably okay. Target and ctx dot has package. How was I doing that before? Oh, it has to have a package. Oh, shoot. It can't be a target. That won't work. Package only is probably what we want. Okay. That makes sense. If context package only. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Going that in the wrong place. Don't do that. This one. package only. If the context is a package only, I don't actually care about. I do need this, which I believe I should always be able to get. Those keyword args. That's not actually stored, is it? Return a command context tuple for the provided view and possible event. Some members of the tuple will be none if they do not apply or cannot be determined by the current command state. We're going to call view context. Favorite settings. Doesn't actually store that, so shoot. It has, we need to have the target view to be able to do this. So, okay, yeah, I'm going to need to think on that a little bit more. I'm pretty sure that's quite possible. Let's go ahead and do that and just see what we have here as far as things go. Adding the ability to store packages, adding the ability to store packages, adding the ability to store packages. I think that looks a little nicer. Don't need multiple lines there, I don't think. So those are all that, and then here we have that status method. Okay, so we're pretty keen on that, and we are running a little bit out of time in this stream. So, what do we want to do here? We want to pull that. Let's go ahead and close a bunch of these because on the whole, let's assume we don't care. But what we do care about is knowing that. And in our events, this is the override audit event listener. We might want on hover. Okay. On hover gets a view and a point and a hover zone. Calls when the user's mouse is hovered over a view for a short period. Okay, so if hover zone is not equal to sublime.hover text return. We only want to do something when you're hovering over actual text. Okay, that makes sense. Text dot override dash audit. I think that should apply to all of these. Yeah, not for an actual override, but for any sort of report. The different kinds of reports have different suffixes on there, but that's okay. So we might say if view.match selector at let's see. Oh shoot, I already forgot. Well, we'll copy that. Yeah. Boop boop boo. If not view match selector, make sure I got those in the right order. First the point, then the selector, swanko. So here's that. Only when we're in, oh, actually, I guess I should have taken that one step further. Text.override audit, oh, and entity name package. That's enabled. That's disabled. That's entity.name.package. There we go. That way it'll only trigger on, it won't trigger on that, but it would trigger here, which should still have the same action. So, we want to say package name is equal to view dot extract scope. And how do we work that again? Returns the extent of the scope name assigned to the character at the given point, which is point. And we want to view.substir that. And then we're going to just very quickly take a peek at, whoops, I hate when I do that. Oh, shoot. Put that back over there. There we go. Look at the, that's the hyperhelp one? Yeah, okay. What was I going to do? Oh, yeah, I wanted to see how we were doing this business. We were doing it like this. Let's copy this in, just cause. And we'll go ahead and do that. And this thing here, help popup.format. We need this thing too. Or at least, can I put that in here? Will that work? Yeah, probably. Let's find out. What kind of stuff has this thing actually got in it? We just pass some body. So here we might say self.show popup view point package name, let's say, and reload. Let's see what that does, he said. That says test package. Check that out. That's totally doing a thing. Okay, so that says test package. That's nice. And, uh-oh, hang on a second. Oh, no. I got a sneeze coming. Default. Good. It works in the single package report. Does it work here? Yes, yes it does. TCL, textile, YAML. Okay, and that's help, so we'll close that because we think we got all we need for now. That is a multi-package report, and it's still pulling multi-packages. And the override report, it's still doing what we want. And it's still doing what we want there. Oh, well, not here. Oh, there we go. So that's working nicely. So how might we do what we want to do here? For our example here, let's say we want to actually pop this up here, like so, and put it back to the way that it was. And one of those and we'll say package pop-up like so. And if we were to look for the other one of those, we can get rid of this because it's no longer a self, it's that one. And let's go ahead and do that. Show pop-up. So this again has to come back up to here. And we would drop it in here, copy that to give us the separator we desire. Shoot that back. Okay, now instead of pop-up, we would say package details, like so. And then we go to the other location for this. Now we have the package name. We have view.settings.get and that is the name of the package. Defaulting it to that. And then package details. Oh, actually do this first. Get the view settings, the package name, the package details is, oh, sorry. Packages is equal to that. Let's do this. Okay. Get the list of packages from the setting. Get the package name by extracting it from the buffer. The package details is packages, no, sorry. Packages.get package name none. And then if package details is not none, do this. And instead of package name, it would be package details, which should all still compile, but not do anything nearly interesting. Yeah, that's what I thought. Viewpoint package details, because I forgot to remove the self from that thing. So now it's giving us that ridiculous bit of the actual thing. So that's kind of what we want here, because what we want is, I didn't want to do that. Def expand details. We'll say details like so. And return boop 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 boop. Dot format, and then we add some items in here. I would imagine that probably should still work. Package format, and this should be expand details in package details. So I think that should still be doing what we're currently doing, except that it's returning an empty thing now, which is exactly what we want to have had happen. Now, we might say h1 oh, I guess I actually need the name of this stupid package, don't I? Because it's not stored in the details. But we can fix that. I think that is, I've already forgotten. Oh, we'll find out in a second, won't we? Whoops. Oh. Did I not add a comma? I did not add a comma. And now it won't automatically reload, so I gotta quit and restart again. That's a bummer and 3/4. Okay. Okay. Nice. And I think we should be able to do /h1 Oh, well, I'm doing this in the wrong spot. No wonder that doesn't look right. Shoops. Package equals details. Package. Reload. Key error package. Okay, well, do. Font. Oh, I guess I could have just looked in the init, huh? Gets a name. Self.name is name. Well, that really seems like it should have known the name of itself, doesn't it? Oh, I suppose I have to refresh the actual package because I changed what it's populating in there. That makes sense. Debugging, it's for smart people, not me. Okay, there we go. Now it's showing us the package name. That's nice. Now, this is like proof of concept-y type stuff here. How was I doing that in P class equals body? Details is the tiny writing at the bottom. Okay. Part of the reason why a guy like me doesn't like to do this sort of thing is because I am not very good at, oops, shoot, designing things that look nice, as far as visual items are concerned. Ships with Sublime. And let's do one of those. And what's the other one? Installed package. Installed. And something like that, say. And then we can say there. Do that. Copy. And there. Do boop, 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 boo. Boo. And you. I think that'll be unhappy probably. Let's do that. Ships with Sublime, true. Installed package, true. Contains unpacked files, true. And this one is just shipped and installed. Other information we could have in here. We could say P. Shoot, I've already forgotten the other class details. Class equals details. Whoops, don't do that. And here we might say, well, we have an HR in here. I think that's what I did in the body of the body of the one in HyperHelp. Oh, sorry, the package name is just underlined. My bad. Okay, so yeah, don't do that. I don't think that actually works. Disabled is cannot type disabled. We are at our 2-hour limit here, so I think we're going to call this in just a second. And like so, and then we can go ahead and do that thing where we say that, and we want these two, oops, there and there is what we want. And then do that, reload, disabled false dependency false. Yeah, it's doing weird stuff, but that's okay. So we came down here, we could see TypeScript, disabled true, dependency false, and date util, disabled false dependency true. So it's got that kind of info. We could also go ahead and do another one of these. Contains and then we might say and unknown, unknown. And then I think that we'll have done the last little bit of these. Override expired, unknown, copy, paste those in. Man, I love being able to do that sort of thing. Reload, and oh, that's unhappy. Oh, that's right, expired. These should both be like so. Okay. Contains 0 override, 0 expired, 0 unknown. Now this is a bad package to do this in because it's going to say 0 or 1. So one thing we need to do here is know whether that was detailed or not. May contain overrides, may not contain overrides, you know, that sort of thing. So there's that. Over here in this one, we get 1 override and 0 unknown, so that's working pretty nice. That's just 1. Oh, look at that. Test package contains 2 overrides, 1 expired and 23 unknown, but they don't aren't are put here because this is the expired only one, so only the expired one actually appears. All that stuff's working real good. I guess we got those 3. We need this. So we probably need another one of these. Class equals body. Are we seeing indenting in there? I can't imagine that we would. But it's interesting that after a line break, I'm getting some sort of indent in there, and it's really cascading in a way. Is that how HTML is supposed to work? I don't know. Complete override and also expired is complete expired, like so. And I guess we want that just, you know, for gigs. We need these 2 from here. And we need these 2 from here. If we do that right this time. Probably wanted it to look more like that, didn't I? Actually, I suppose these might be up here. Like that. That seems like it might be a nicer way to go. Reload. And good news, everybody. My sneeze arrived. Okay. Ships with Sublime true. Installed package true. Contains unpacked files true. Complete override true. Also expired true. Contains 1 override, none expired, 1 unknown. Better news, everybody. The second sneeze arrived. And test package is not a complete override and not also expired. Also, that height is not nice. And I don't think there's a max height in show pop-up. I think there's just a max width. Oh, there's a max height. Swank. So what do we want for that? Max height equals, let's say 512. I don't know what to pick. Yeah, that seems like a good size. Half as wide as it is tall. That seems pretty good. That's going to be more than we need for this. So, in order for this to actually be something that is nice and works when you hover over a package, we have the basis of what we want here. So we need two more things here. And maybe we could actually, just to get the basis of this working, do we remember what the name of the setting was? That one, override audit report type. So if we came down to here, report type is equal to view. Oh, I can do that, can I? Oh, no, I can't. View.settings.get. That with the default of that. Okay. Now we do this. In the package report, somewhere in here, this one, if we ask it what its report type is, it says :packages. And then we could say report type is not equal to, whoops, packages, like so. Because we might want to go to show pop-up and say is detailed, and we might also want to pass is detailed here, and we would say is detailed here. Oh, no, we wouldn't. Here. Let me hoop that one up. Okay, so theoretically it should all still work, right? Okay. Now, you could say return detailed if is detailed, else loosey goosey. Probably more e's in there, huh? Reload. This one gets loosey-goosey because it's the package report that doesn't have detailed information, but this one is detailed. So we have successfully pulled that information in. So we might say this. Details is equal to that. Okay. Ships with Sublime installed. Just for example, like so. That one. Dot format stuff, right? And then stuff. Like if I do that just to shut that up for a second, I'm going to copy this whole shebang like this and put it here. Because then we're going to say package is in there, shipped, installed, unpacked is in there, complete and complete expired is in there. I guess this part should also be in there too. We'll move this part up. to be in there. So it can have whether it's disabled or a dependency, but it can't have any of those items like so. And then we can say if is detailed, then details plus equals that and we will indent that like so, and that's just overrides expired and unknown are the only ones that are in here. So I think with that in place, if we look here, we see it saying an error. String indices must be integers. What? Details overrides. Oh, whoops. I see. That's an unfortunate. That should be result is equal to that. And if is detailed, then result plus equals that. We also have to return result. Otherwise, we're not going to see a heck of a lot of anything, are we? So there we go. Contains one override, 0 expired, 1 unknown. For some reason, that is not... was it doing that before? Because I would have thought that it wouldn't have been doing that before. But in any case, here it says contains one override, 0, and 1 unknown, whatever. And if we look in the package report, it doesn't say that part anymore. So here we can say again, else. If details we're gonna if details overrides, then result plus equals, I guess because there's no else result plus equals package cannot contain overrides. Okay, that's the last little bit of this. So again, here this should still say it contains one override, none expired, and one unknown, which is agreeing with that. And here there's 23 unknown in that, blah, blah, blah. And in the package report, here terminus cannot contain overrides, and dateutil cannot contain overrides, and YAML cannot contain overrides, but XML can. It may contain overrides. So that is the basis of this. Now, clearly, this needs to be a lot nicer. It could be colored, could be using magic fonts, could be, check boxes instead of S's. So that could be shipped with Sublime Text. So basically, every pop-up could have this information in it. It could have nicer displays for everything, but that is a job for another time. And we are already quite long into this stream. We're like 20 minutes over. So we are going to say thank you so much for watching. If you have been, if you want to join these live streams live, you can subscribe to the channel, and on the channel page, there's always should be a live stream. I schedule the next live stream as soon as the current one is finished. The topic will not be known until closer to the day, sometimes not even the day of. And you might want to check because occasionally I do have to bump the live stream schedule. And if you'd like to eschew the extra long form watching people work on packages and just go for pre-created videos on how to use Sublime, you want to use my other channel for that. There's a link down in the description. New videos come out every Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you're on the West Coast, it's 9 o'clock. And if you're on the East Coast, it's lunchtime video viewing. Until the next live stream, which should be next Monday, this is OdatNurd thanking you for watching and reminding you to please have a sublime day.